Content warning. This video's all about transphobic rhetoric, and a couple of guys make some really trans-misogynist remarks in the middle. Viewer discretion is advised.
The planet's straight Krypton was dying. The only survivors sent as infants in spaceships to Earth and adopted by kindly, albeit transphobic farmers in the American Midwest. The heterosexual son of Earth gave them extraordinary powers. The ability to affirm a binary understanding of sex and gender with the strength of a locomotive, faster than a speeding bigot, able to leap to conclusions in a single bound. Look! Down in the comments section! It's a troll! It's a chud! No! It's the super straights! Oh wait, no, it's just a bunch of assholes pretending like not wanting to date trans people as a sexuality. That's disappointing. I thought it was a superhero. Release the Snyder cut of super straights. It isn't, by the way. It isn't a sexuality. That's nonsense. Kind of a key point of sexual attraction is that it's involuntary, not necessarily something we resist, but something we're most definitely not in control of. That's why conversion therapy doesn't work, or why it's offensive to imply that homosexuality is a choice, for example. Because who you are and are not attracted to is not a choice you make, it's just something that happens to you, whether you like it or not. So can someone be involuntarily unattracted to all trans people as a general rule, while still being nominally attracted to cis people of their preferred gender or genders? Well, in order for that to be the case, logically, you'd have to be able to clock instantly whether someone is trans before your body and hormones have time to register sexual attraction, and allow me to demonstrate that you cannot do that. One of these men is a trans. Can you tell which one? Pause the video if you need to and look over their photos, then pick which one you think is trans. Ready? They all are. They're all trans. Okay, test number 2. One of these women is trans, and this time, it's not a trick question. Not all of these women are trans, only one is. Go ahead, pause the video again if you need to. Do you have your pick? Okay, because none of them are trans. I lied to you. It was a trick question again. Test number 3, and this is the big one, so really think through your answer. Imagine the celebrity you want to fuck the most. Imagine they approach you with an offer for whatever kind of sex you want, no matter how weird. Like if you want them to sit on a birthday cake, they'll do it, no questions asked. Consequence-free. And for the sake of argument, if you have a partner or spouse or whatever, they're enthusiastically supportive of this. And also, the deity of your religion appears to you in a vision and says, hey, so you know, it's totally morally okay if you want to do this. This is not going to affect your chances of getting into a good or bad afterlife in any way. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to force you to make a choice. Just so you know, it's me, the infallible deity of your religion. I'm telling you, this is fine to do if you want to do it. Do you? Do you do it? Same scenario, but before the clothes come off, the celebrity admits to you that they're trans and have been keeping it a secret out of fear that it would hurt their career. Do you still do it? Did your answer change? Because obviously, if you have sex with them, you're sexually attracted to a trans person, so there's that. But if you don't, you were still sexually attracted to a trans person, so you couldn't be super straight. Because if your answer changed upon the reveal that this fictional celebrity was trans, you've fallen into my rhetorical trap. You see, I'm the rhetoric spider, spinning my little talky webs, and you've fallen straight in. In that scenario, you were sexually attracted to a trans person, but chose not to act on it. And why is that? Scenario is entirely fictional, so what changed for you? Did the celebrity become less attractive physically? Because if you imagine that, why? I never said their appearance changed at all. Why would you make that assumption? Did the concept of transness just gross you out? Then that isn't so much a matter of your sexuality, but your attitude towards trans people. Like, if I was about to get down with somebody, and they mentioned that they were a serial killer, or worse, voted Tory, and I no longer wanted to get down with them, it wouldn't be that I have some sort of sexual preference for non-serial killers and non-conservatives. It would be because I don't like serial killers or conservatives, and thus would not reward them with the pleasure of my body. Now, you see, it's good to not like serial killers or conservatives. That's a good quality. It's bad to dislike trans people, because unlike serial killers or conservatives, trans people, as a rule, don't hurt anyone. If sexuality were a choice, there'd be nothing wrong with being gay or pan or asexual or even straight. The fact that these sexualities aren't a choice isn't what makes them permissible. The fact that they're not hurting anybody is what makes them permissible. If being gay were a choice, it'd be a perfectly valid choice to make, and people should be allowed to make it. The same thing cannot be said of so-called super straights. The very idea of categorically separating trans people as sexually undesirable, regardless of what they look like, how they behave, or anything else other than the fact that they are trans, by necessity, implies that transness has some sort of quality one can observe and measure. It would be like saying you're only sexually attracted to right-handed people. Are you? Or do you just have some sort of bias against left-handed people that makes you uncomfortable? How can you tell who is and who is not right-handed by looking at them? And none of this is to say that you must be attracted to any and all trans people, because I don't give a shit if you find an individual trans person attractive or unattractive. Quite frankly, if by some amazing statistical anomaly you judged each individual trans person on their merits and found them unattractive according to the same standards you would apply to a cis person, fine. Whatever. That's impossible, but even if it was physically possible, that result would be pretty unlikely, but sure, I will allow for the possibility of this ludicrous thought experiment. The problem comes when you assign the quality of sexual desirability or undesirability to transness itself, when the quality of being trans specifically, not the person themselves, is what you claim to find attractive or unattractive. And this is further compounded in this case by the implication that it is more straight to be exclusively attracted to cis people, which kind of implies that trans people are less their gender than cis people are. If it's straighter to not want to have sex with them, therefore it must be a little gay to have sex with them, therefore they're a little bit not the gender they claim to be, on some level. That's the logic. If we believe, for example, that trans men are men, then how could a woman be more heterosexual if they wanted to screw fewer kinds of men? It's as though you're saying, oh, you may be enough of a man for regular straights, but sorry, I'm just too straight for that. See, it's an attempt to lay some kind of Uno reverse card on queer people to suggest that other people's identities somehow contradict their sexualities. Here's a thought that doesn't seem to have occurred to these ding-dongs. Being heterosexual does not necessitate that you are attracted to every single member of the opposite gender. Everyone has been rejected by someone they liked. Everyone who feels any sort of sexual attraction has noticed that they don't feel it towards, like, major uggos, or hopefully, blood relatives. But the premise of super straight as a sexuality implies that because you were not attracted to trans people, or at least trans people you recognize thusly, then therefore they must be less of the gender they identify as, because otherwise you'd want to fuck them. Hey, do you want to fuck your parents? No? Are your parents the gender they identify with? The logic of this is flimsy because it's meant to work on a surface level reading that gets people emotional. Check the comment section and you'll see tons of people asserting the general premise of super heterosexuality in the comments as though that definition negates every argument I've made in this video. You're not meant to think too hard about it because it's meant to just affirm your gut instinct that trans people are icky and just lying about being whatever gender they present as. Well, not your gut instinct, but the gut instincts of people who are both bigoted enough to believe that and also too cowardly to say so directly. It's a way to say that you don't believe trans people are who they say they are and disguise that bigotry through the language of sexual autonomy. To pretend that these two things are at odds and force you to concede that one or the other has to be untrue, when in reality, no. People have sexual agency and trans people are valid. And you have to bend yourself into all sorts of ridiculous logic pretzels to pretend like they're contradictory. And this isn't really my speculation. This is the stated intent of the Nazis who popularized the term. That's right, it was Nazis. It was Nazis the whole time. Are you surprised? Aren't you so surprised? It was Nazis again. Nazis did this. I mean, they didn't start it. The whole thing started with some dingus on TikTok named Kyle Royce sitting in his car talking into a cell phone, like all great movements start. Behold, his stunning logic and rhetorical prowess.
Since straight people or straight men as myself, I get called transphobic because I wouldn't date a trans woman. You know, they're like, would you date a trans woman? I'm like, no, why? That's a female. No, like, that's not a real woman to me. Like, I want real woman. No, you're just transphobic. So now, I'm super straight. I only date the opposite gender, women, that are born women. So you can't say I'm transphobic now because that's just my sexuality, you know?
No. Stop calling me a transphobe simply because I don't think trans women are women. The thing is, they don't make me horny, so you're not allowed to be mad. Checkmate, libs. Now, as far as I can tell, Royce is not a far-right type of guy. He's just an ignorant, bigoted numbskull who desperately needs to shave his upper lip. Come on, man, it's not working. It's just not. But his post seemed to really appeal to Nazis for some reason. 4chan ate that shit up, and they especially loved that the initials of Super Straight were SS. You know, like the Schutzstaffel, the Nazi paramilitary force. They told people to spread this meme like wildfire. Get it everywhere! And at this point, most regular people would stop and think, hey, why do the Nazis like this meme so much? How come the Nazis are such big fans of this meme? Should I rethink my opinion of this meme now that I know Nazis like it? See, Nazis are not the type of people whose company you should like to be in. That should make you stop and take stock of your views. Anyway, here's Jeremy the Quartering Hambone expressing his support for the meme the Nazis told everybody to spread.
Who are we? Well, we are the member of this group. We are the SSLGBTQ plus community.
Here's Matt Walsh spreading it on his show, hosted by Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire.
Pretty edgy stuff. So the guy in the video, which that Yahoo article mentioned earlier calls a hate and disinformation campaign. That's what they said about that video. It's a hate and disinformation campaign. But he's really just making the point that he's attracted to females, which means he's not attracted to males, even males who identify as female.
And look at this, it's Count Dankula, the guy who every time I say he's a far-right provocateur, people jump up my butt about it, spreading the meme that the Nazis wanted everybody to spread for them.
And it's a very good troll. It's a very good troll, and it has exposed a lot of things, and it's worked absolutely perfectly. It's
weird, isn't it? Isn't that weird, don't you think? It's kind of weird that this Nazi psyop seems to have been a profound success on the mainstream conservative dipshitosphere. It's almost like they were looking for an excuse to express their transphobic views as openly and cruelly as possible. But it's almost like the smallest fig leaf of ironic detachment or respectability allows them to loudly proclaim their bigoted views to anyone who will listen. And isn't that pathetic? Isn't it just so telling that they don't want to come out and say what they mean? Kyle Royce, the shithead who started this whole thing, said, I know a lot of people have the same opinion as me, but they're too scared to say it, in fear of the backlash and the misrepresentations. I like to eat shit and drink piss. That last part was added for editorial emphasis, but he did say the rest. When I believe something, I say so. I live my truth and I face the consequences of that because truthfulness is important to me like it is to most people. And what are the consequences of spouting transphobic rhetoric, really? Being criticized? Maybe losing your job at worst? Now think about the consequences of coming out as trans. Think about the ridiculous murder rate of trans women. Think about how people have used trans panic as a legal defense against murder. Think about the astounding rate of trans youth who are made homeless upon coming out. Think about the staggering sexual assault statistics against trans people. Imagine how scary the world is for them, and how much courage it takes for them to walk out into the world every day and fight to be recognized as themselves. And the people who want to stop them are so afraid of being criticized for it that they have to hide behind phony moral posturing about the imaginary nuances of their sexuality before they'll even speak their mind. They have to play some I'm not touching you style word game because if forced to actually defend their bigotry, they would have nothing to offer. They see a world leaving them and their beliefs behind, and rather than stand up for the terrible things they believe, they chose to spend their time sticking their tongues out saying, nah, I believe a bunch of bullshit and you can't stop me. They're a bunch of small-minded, privileged, and smug schemers, operating in secret to fight the influence of an outsider whose courage they despise. So they're not super straight, they're Sex Luthor. That line had more gravitas in my head. I thought that would be a good ending, like it conveyed the seriousness of the situation, but in hindsight, it kind of wasn't a good idea. Kind of should have ended the video. Hello and welcome to the Eyeball Zone. Here in the Eyeball Zone, we save Matt from awkward situations by unleashing eyeballs upon small leftist projects. Falun Gong, the Chinese cult that loves Trump by Kyle Anderson, is an introduction to the new religious movement Falun Gong and their shady connections to the QAnon movement. What I love about this video is that Kyle spends so much time going over how difficult it is to get accurate information about the Falun Gong, or its persecution by the CCP. Both groups put out so much contradictory propaganda that it's really hard to get a grasp on what is and is not happening. Like, you don't know really what to think. I mean, everybody thinks they understand what's happening in these other parts of the world, but when you really look into it, there's so many groups that are trying to control the narrative in all these different ways that it's really hard to tell what's actually happening, and that's just really interesting. at the end of the video, you don't really know what to believe. There's not a single fact in this video that couldn't be disputed. I don't know. Do you have a small leftist project you'd like to see featured here in the eyeball zone? Send no more than one email to thoughtslimeeditor@gmail.com with the word eyeball somewhere in the subject line, and maybe you too will find yourself trapped here in the eyeball zone. Hi, I did a video. It's me, ThoughtSlime. Press like, god damn it. Just press like, I need you to, and subscribe, god damn it. Did you know that at Patreon I go there and that's how I steal people's money from them. All these drawings I did are because of it. At patreon.com/thoughtslime. Go there and become the victim of my robbery. Did you know also that I do other videos about horror movies? It's Scaredy Cats is a YouTube channel where I do it, and it's youtube.com/scaredycatstv, and you can see videos there every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, I do live streams every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube and on Twitch, twitch.tv/thoughtslime, also youtube.com/thoughtslime. But you already knew that because that's where you are, probably, unless this video is embedded somewhere else, in which case, so you know, that originally you can find it on my YouTube page. So now you know that.